Our next speaker is Bosco. He's CEO of Little Place Labs, and he will tell us about AI technologies and how AI is changing space industry. Bosco, the floor is yours.
All right, thank you. Can you see my screen okay?
Yes, we do, please.
Okay, fantastic. So thank you so much for the opportunity. My name is Bosco. I'm the co-founder and CEO of the company Little Place Labs. And just a little bit about myself before we dive into what we do, who we are. I'm based in Houston, US. Academically, I have an engineering and science background, but most of my career has been spent in the domain of energy commodities, especially in electricity and natural gas assets, supporting and working with startups and also with big corporates. About 2.5 years ago, during my time at the University of Oxford, when I was doing my executive MBA, I met a few batchmates within my class, and we decided that, hey, we want to do something that is really passionate, that we're really passionate about. We'll get out of bed and feel very good about it, and in an area where it is very, very exciting and there's real opportunities. And very quickly, we have identified space as, the next chapter for us. I'm sure, there is a lot of hype and happening that you're seeing, on the news and whatnot about space. But the real opportunity is how do we actually connect all these technologies that are being built, behind the scene for space and connect that into how do we actually help end users, downstream users in many domain and sectors to really improve their workflows, improve their capability of solving problems. So again, very happy to be here to share what we do, and let's dive in. So this picture is the first ever picture of our planet seen from space. So it was taken back in 1946, almost 80 years ago. And it was taken by a camera being put in a metal box, literally put in a metal box. The metal box is being attached to a rocket, and the rocket is being launched up into orbit. And once the camera captured this image on film, the box was sent back down to ground by free falling. Once the film was sent back down to ground, it was being processed into this amazing picture. So it was the first ever, again, of our planet seen from space. Now, almost 80 years later, now our capabilities in capturing data, taking pictures in space have dramatically evolved. And now we capture gigabytes and terabytes of data from almost 10,000 satellites in space every single day. But the problem is that the basic three-step approach, as I talk about, the capture, the sending data back to ground, and then the data being processed into images, into useful insights, has not changed. Before we can get to the insights, we first need to send the data back to ground. Now, again, think about 10,000 satellites in space taking gigabytes of data and terabytes of data every single day. Downlinking this amount of data is very, very expensive, costing satellite operators hundreds of millions of dollars a year. And two, downlinking this amount of data is very, very slow. And what does that mean is if you are the end user who is waiting for, let's say, your image, or even worse, if you're waiting for the insights and the information within that image, you often have to wait for hours and days to get that information. Now, this simply does not work in a situation where every minute counts. Let's say you're a responder and you have to wait for that information to take actions, and lives and billions of dollars are on the line. That does not work. For example, wildfire detection, maritime surveillance over vast oceans. If I tell you 6 hours ago, some vessels were detected at the location, too late to respond. If you're a bank or insurance companies that have investment in portfolio, you want to actively monitor and quickly respond. And the last bit, obviously, is national security. These users need to know what's happening now in a very, very short latency and not hours and days ago. And this is where we see a gap in all the use cases, especially in use cases where time is a critical element, when the users are not getting the information that they need even though they are available from satellites and being captured and being processed. And this is why we built Little Place Labs, is to provide that insights not in hours or days, but within minutes. So how do we do it? We focus on in-orbit data processing. So remember I talked about the 3 steps, right? Data being captured, data being sent down, and data being processed into insights. We turn that around and say, how do we build software products and solutions that can run and process the data right on the satellite instead of the need to send down everything by default? So a very simple example, a satellite captured this image covering hundreds of miles of wild forest, easily gigabytes in size. Now, instead of spending, let's say, 4 to 6 hours to downlink this image, we process it right on board the satellite as soon as it's being captured. We detect the fire, and we generate these very small but precise coordinates, which is really the information that the responder needs to take very, very quick action. And then once we get these coordinates, we immediately deliver them to the responders through our platform, which is the UI, showing that, hey, there is an identification of an event. These are the critical information. Go take action. Now, because we only send back what's needed, we can reduce the downlinks, so the amount of data that is being captured, but really what is the size of that information that needs to be downlinked is very, very small. So in this case, we can reduce downlink by up to 98% and also deliver insights within 7 minutes. So imagine a satellite flies by, it captures, that wild forest, identify the fire, generate the information, and the information being delivered to the firefighter's hand, everything within 7 minutes instead of hours and days. So it's much cheaper, it's much more efficient, but it's also much quicker. Very, very important for the time-sensitive situations. So the market we're going after is the $15 billion data and satellite insights market, especially focusing on time-sensitive events. And our go-to-market, it's really on the right-hand side. One is we provide our insights to subscribers. These are mostly downstream end users, again, responders, traders in banks, insurance companies, and also national security. We also work directly with satellite operator because we are a software-first company. We build applications that we can deploy on many different satellites to help satellite operators and owners to extend the value chain to the existing customers and also improve their workflow and efficiency for in-space operations. So some of the work that we did back in early 2023, our product has first run in space. We partnered with a company called The Orbit. They are an Italian space operator. They have a satellite in orbit at that time, which has compute capability. So what we did is we built an application that is very, very small and light, and this is very important. There are certain limitations in running data processing in space. Obviously, the unit itself is less powerful than a data processing center on ground. 2 is, if you're familiar with satellite operation, electricity, power is very, very scarce in terms of there's a scarcity. It's a very limited resources. So the data processing application has to be very light and very lean to be able to deploy, run without consuming too much of these resources in space. So we built an application that does land segmentation. So I give you a picture, how much of that is land, how much of that is water, how much of that is other elements, and successfully deployed the application while the satellite is already in orbit, ran it, and generate the insights of the segmentation percentages. So in this case, we were able to prove a few things. One is we don't have to wait before the satellite is being launched to deploy our application. We can package and deploy the application while the satellite is already in orbit. Now think about that, is really important. That changes the economics and the utility of a satellite. Imagine now that you have a satellite in space that is running for a particular application. In 6 months' time, that application may not be relevant anymore, or the user wants to add another application. We can do that as a programmable satellite and approach. 2 is we were successfully able to turn the original images into insights, and that proved that we can eliminate the size of the data that is being required to downlink, again, in the range of the 98%. And three is, this is a collaboration. Space historically has been a very vertically integrated business model. You have satellite operator that are building their satellite and operating the satellites and also building all the utility, which is really driven by applications. Here is an application company like Little Place Labs partnering with a satellite owner and a satellite operator in the orbit. And together we build applications and use cases that are useful for the downstream end users. So very happy with the result of that first in-orbit mission, and we have at least 3 of different kinds of mission coming up in this year. Oh, hold on, jump too fast. Second example is we're working with another satellite operator in the US called Sidus Space. And again, the business model is, again, hardware infrastructure company in Sidus collaborating with an application software company like Little Place Labs. And together we are building capability to do rapid surveillance on the vessel detection side. So maritime surveillance, there's a lot happening, whether it is for, again, private and commercial purposes or for national security purposes. There is a lot of utilities to be able to detect what's actually happening and some interesting activity that is happening in open ocean. So together we're building the capability to do rapid surveillance on maritime activities to be able to provide that insights within minutes. And 2 is doing onboard cloud detection. So imagine that you are a satellite operator, and on the satellite there is a camera, just like our phones. And every time you take a picture, pointing down, let's say 60 to 70% of the time, the picture is not really useful because there's too much clouds. And why do you want to send all these pictures down, spend money, spend time in sending 60 to 70% of these cloud cover pictures down? That's a waste of time, waste of money. So what we are building the capability of is doing the cloud detection right on board the satellite. And so if a picture is being captured and there's too much cloud, don't even bother sending it down because it's not useful for anyone. So that would be saving a lot of bandwidth and also saving a lot of, again, unnecessary expenses for the satellite operator, hence improving the efficiency of the workflow. So again, another example of the different use cases. Secondly, we also have a few research contracts with the US Air Force. So again, from a national security point of view, very important to get to know what's happening, threat detection, trend detection, patterns of life. The quicker, these units and these warfighters get that information, the better, the higher efficiency, and the less risk of loss of lives and assets. So very happy we have secured a couple of contracts early this year and are actively working on rapid surveillance capabilities with the stakeholders in the Air Force. So these are just some other partners that we have. I'm based in the US, but my co-founder is based in UK, and we have footprint across UK, US, and also in India. If you all know, we are also part of a few global startup or space tech ecosystem, including Techstars, AWS Space, Starburst, and National Security Innovation Network, which is under the Defense Department in the US. So, for the past 2.5 years, we are very, very fortunate to see how stakeholders within the space ecosystem is starting to think about how do we break down vertical integrated system into modular system? How do we build collaboration that we have not even been thinking about before within the space domain? And I would say the last 2.5 years, we have seen a lot of positive trends within companies, within commercial companies, within private sector and the government and the agencies. And also more importantly, why are we here is because we want to talk about collaboration at a global scale, right? How does US, UK companies collaborate with the needs within the Gulf region and other regions? So really, really excited to see that partnership network and the possibility of building even better networks really, really kind of growing and people putting real emphasis on that, in the last two years or so. So just about a little bit about us. Again, I came from a commodity background, so have a firsthand experience on, the lost opportunities when we don't have quick insights. And during my time in Oxford, I met my co-founder, Gaurav here, who is the CTO based in London, spent 15, 16 years in software engineering, building products. And it's really all about the team too. We're supported by an amazing team of domain experts who really know and work and deep dive into various aspects in space and also in defense. Again, national security and supporting certain commercial segments is our focus, and we need that deep domain knowledge to help us succeed. So this is the core team right here. Lastly, just a little bit about our very early stage, I would say, involvement in the Gulf or presence in the Gulf, if you will. So as I mentioned, we started this company really as a spin-off of the University of Oxford, and specifically within the SAID Business School. And also work very closely with a group called Oxford Space Initiative. So as you see here, there's a picture of myself and a few members within the initiative, and also Noreen Alassi here from the UAE Space Agency. We were sitting on a panel in COP28 in Dubai back in December, and the topic is about how do we use space tech to help climate change or to help combat climate change and challenges. It was fascinating, again, to see that collaboration, the insights, and the excitement and the ambition to really push and advance space tech within the Gulf region, not just from the UAE perspective, but from all different countries and the agencies within the Gulf region. And so that was a very pleasant experience there, interacting with the ecosystem there. And a little bit about the space initiative. So it is part of the SAID Business School, led by Professor Mark Ventresca. And the angle is really taking it from a research, teaching, global connection and collaboration, and how do we use social science tools to really look into how do we connect the dots between governance, tech focus, and also commercialization, right? You have technology, but you also have to have commercialization to push this technology into a viable status. And then how do we make sure that the governance, especially at a global scale, who owns what, who is responsible for what, to make sure that this is a healthy, sustainable movement of the whole space industry. So the initiative is really a connector and a global community that connects all the alumni within the Oxford community, but also outside of that, to really, really push for that the next stage of this new space era and make sure that we are heading into the right way, in a sustainable way, and in a very advanced way from a technology point of view. So again, looking forward from a Little Place Labs perspective, and within the Oxford Space Initiative, to really deep dive more and learn more about how we can continue to build these collaborations, again, especially in the Gulf region and in the regions that we are already actively working on and operating in. Oh, so that's my last slide. And again, Little Place Labs, our vision is really to use space tech to make this world a better place. And I think being able to provide a better workflow, a better efficiency for satellite operators and these technologies, ultimately getting the information that people need at the time that they need it. It's really a big step to enabling better usage of satellite data and insights. So these are some of our connect information. There's my email there, bosco@littleplacelabs.com, and our website and some QR codes if you want to connect us on LinkedIn. But really happy to learn more. Super excited to be here again to share our story and a little bit about us. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Bosco. Before we jump to the next speaker, we have a question in the chat about cloud detection. Is it an idea, or this technology was already implemented, and so on?
Yeah, great question. So we have already done a on-ground demonstration last year, a few months ago, and we have another deployment on a satellite that is already in orbit in the next 3 to 4 months. And the models and the application is already ready. We are just waiting for the satellite to be fully commissioned, and so that we can deploy it on the satellite itself. So that's it. And the beauty about this is, I think I also saw the question. So we are a software first company. Now that doesn't mean that, like just as an analogy, right? Like if you're building an application for your smartphone, you don't really need to worry too much about what phone it is. You just probably need to worry about, okay, if it's an Android or if it's an iOS by Apple. But for satellites, it's still quite nascent in terms of, what are the real capabilities, meaning the satellite hardware, the processor itself, the electricity consumption, and the uptime. So we have spent, while we have this vision of building an application company to do onboard processing, we also know these limitations. So we spent a lot of time in our last 2 years, pretty much the most of the life of the company, to really build that relationships with many, many different hardware providers. So companies that are building the computing units that can be used on board, companies that are actually operating satellites, to understand what the limitations and requirements are. So we have a good understanding of, what applications and for what sensor, what is the best combination of, let's say, computing units, downlink capabilities, and processing power. So that's kind of like a little bit of a secret sauce of how we build it. But our, ultimate goal is to be able to be agnostic of the platform itself, right? The more satellites that we get on, the better we can serve our customers and downstream end users. And that's why the vertical integrated model kind of works at the beginning of the domain. But again, like if you can only build applications to be deployed on your own constellation, there's always going to be a limitation no matter how big you are, right? Even if you're a big company that have 200 satellites, I mean, your deployment is 200 satellites. So we have a bigger view to be able to, again, learn more as the hardware gets better and more standardized. We will truly become agnostic and be able to deploy it on a much bigger scale, to more precisely service our customers, or even customers or use cases that can't be serviced right now because of these limitations.
Okay. Thank you so much.